Welcome to NBA Today. He is senior writer Zach Lowe. I am Malika Andrews. And Zach, the start of the show is for you because you said the other day that we just do not talk enough about the Lakers on the show. We never hit them on the show, especially considering the magnitude of the offseason. So this is for you. This is for Lakers fans. This is for Lakers haters. Let's get it started. Here's where we're at, right? LeBron James, he took the stage at the ESPYs, and he officially, after a little bit of, teasing the audience, rambling a little bit, he declared his return for his 21st season in the NBA. And then in August, remember Anthony Davis, he agreed to a 3-year, $186 million extension through 2028. Now, the deal is currently, listen to this, the highest annual contract extension in NBA history at $62 million a season. Ooh-wee. And then all throughout the Lakers, their offseason, right? Their summer has been busy, shoring up Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt, D'Angelo Russell. Plus, they added Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish, Christian Wood. You got all that. By the way, this gives the Lakers currently 8 players at 6'8" or taller, as we say hello to our senior writer, Brian Windhorst, our WNBA rock star, Chiney Ogwumike. So, Zach, I'm going to start with you here because we talked about, the Lakers, they made it to the conference finals. But people are like, is it real? Is it fake? Can they do it again? Call it now. In September, on September 21st. Where do you feel it?
I think it was real, and I think they can absolutely do it again. The Lakers are really, really good defensively. Anthony Davis was the best defensive player in the postseason, full stop. Their biggest obstacle is their best player is almost 39 years old and has played more minutes than everyone but one person in the history of the NBA. We've seen the wear and tear that LeBron usually brings to the playoffs, but they're deep, they're loaded. Austin Reeves is only going to get better, and there was nothing fluky about what they did. Their offense was actually kind of mediocre the whole run, and that is their other biggest obstacle this season. They just have to get a more dependable half-court offense. The only fluky thing was that Rui Hachimura went crazy on jump shots from all over the floor, but there's nothing in this team's resume that says it was a fluke or that there's any reason we should doubt it. They are in the inner circle of title contenders, below Denver, probably a little below Phoenix, maybe below Milwaukee and Boston, but they're right there. They got a shot.
Yeah, my expectation for them, Malika, is to be a top 4 team in the West. And that's saying something because, last year they had no expectations. Maybe they were deluding themselves at the start of the season that the Russell Westbrook experiment was going to play out. Nobody in the league thought that, and they basically played the underdog and played from behind and overachieved down the stretch of the season. That's not going to be the case now. With the way that they're set up, what they're coming off of, that they brought this team back, we're expecting them to play great right from the start, especially if they're able to maintain health. And the one thing I think is going to be interesting and a challenge for Darvin Ham, because they have signed Jackson Hayes, because they have signed Christian Wood, there's going to be a possibility that they could play Anthony Davis back at power forward where he prefers to play. But let's remember, they invested a lot of money in Rui Hachimura. Just last week, they extended Jared Vanderbilt. They did that for those guys to play 4 next to Anthony Davis at the 5. So I'm not saying they got to play that way in November and December, but when it matters, they do need to go back to the way that they played last year and were so good defensively, which was Anthony Davis playing center. So keep an eye on that and the way they, develop that through the season.
Anthony Davis playing center, what he has said over and over again that he loves so very much. But Brian, it's interesting that you mentioned Anthony Davis here because Jeanie Buss joined the Athletic podcast. She expressed her thoughts on the quality of Anthony Davis on the court last season. Take a listen to this.
Something just clicked with the team and Anthony Davis being healthy. There's an argument to be made that he was the best player in the NBA when he was playing at that level.
Best player in the NBA. So Jeanie is very high on Anthony Davis this season, and if he stays healthy, he could very well be a good value pick here for NBA. What are your expectations for Anthony Davis this season? And if he can stay on the court, what is this Laker team ceiling?
Yeah, Anthony Davis can absolutely be MVP. Got to play 65 games, though, right? And average 20 minutes. That's the threshold. But when healthy, he puts up the numbers for that. We were talking about his impact on the floor defensively. I believe the Lakers, when he steps on the floor and is playing defense, had the best defense in the NBA. Only one player scored 26 points per game, averaged 25 per numbers, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks defensively. Only one. That's Anthony Davis. So his defense is huge. His offense is consistent. The only piece is making sure he puts those pieces together game by game for him to be eligible.
Yep.
But I just love this idea of setting that expectation high, saying, hey, you have the ability. We have surrounded you with the pieces. You don't have to max yourself out. The front court is deep. It's really building this narrative that the Lakers, that was not a fluke. They deserve, based on their talent, to potentially get back to that Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that 65-game minimum because Anthony Davis only played in 56 games last season. Chiney, Wendy, your expectations for Anthony Davis here?
Well, you know, I appreciate what Jeanie said, but if you remember back in the playoffs, I can't remember, was it the odd games where he played good offense or was it the even games? Remember his production up and down? Like, to be an MVP level player, that production offensively has got to be more steady. But it's undeniable that his impact offensively was a driver in the Lakers' run in the playoffs. So they extended him at that number because they have such belief in his importance for the roster. And I believe as much attention was on the getting Austin Reeves under contract, as much attention was putting on signing Gabe Vincent away from the Miami Heat, the number one piece of business for the Lakers this offseason was to get Anthony Davis settled into that contract. That was super important because he's so important to what they do. And look, he played less than 60 games last year. LeBron played less than 60 games in the competitive Western Conference. If they're going to put themselves in a good position for the playoffs, those guys got to be healthy. That's just the reality.
I feel like a sensation of deja vu in this entire segment. How many years have we had the conversation about, well, Anthony Davis doesn't like to play center. They're going to have to play him at center when it really matters. And maybe he could win MVP if he plays 60. It's like every year with this. With apologies to Jeanie Buss, he was not arguably the best player in the NBA last year. He was, however, arguably the best defensive player in the NBA. And that's the most important responsibility he has with the Lakers. He single-handedly dominated entire playoff series. To Wendy's point, regular season, 26 points per game. Playoffs, 22.5 points per game. Shots down, free throws down, usage rate down. They're going to need him to be a little bit more consistent offensively. I thought he got a little too much criticism for the occasional dips. That's part of life. They're going to need him to be a little more consistent. And above that, the biggest mystery in the NBA since the bubble is what happened to Anthony Davis's jump shot. Because that's the scoring dip. That's the inconsistency. That's the up and down. It has just deserted him since he was on fire for the entire bubble. And I think to have a half-court offense that's good enough to win 4 playoff series or even 3 playoff series, he's going to have to find a workable jump shot again.
Detective Lowe is on the case, but Anthony Davis, he got that extension in August. But there's still a couple of stars that are waiting to see if they are going to be in that same camp. Because the LA Clippers, they have yet to extend either Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, and they're eligible to do so if they wanted to right now. And if it stays that way, both players, right, Zach, they can walk next summer. That's a lot of uncertainty for a team that's opening a $2 billion arena after this season. So I ask you, what is the path out of this cycle of they're just not been quite good enough, but also do they have a choice but to extend these two?
They have been good enough when the two of them are healthy. It just hasn't happened enough or at the right time. And I think the Clippers are in a really, really tough spot. Almost, you have to look around the league and look at how they've performed since making the conference finals in 2021. They have to be wondering, has the rest of the league, have the other elite teams in the league passed us by? Have we missed our best chance to win with this group? Some of their other key rotation players, Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, are getting older, fell out of the rotation last year. They're going to have to rely on some young guys. That's a major question they have to ask themselves. And then it's almost like they're trapped in what could be a lose-lose situation. You either pay these guys and lock yourself into a team that's older and more expensive and already hasn't won at the level that you expected, or you let them walk and become a much worse team that doesn't control your own draft picks because of the trade that brought those two guys here. It's an incredibly tough spot, and it's why I think whether it's James Harden or other players, the Clippers will try again to upgrade the roster around these guys to make one last reasonable run with them. But it's a very, very tough, rock-hard place kind of position.
Ooh, sounds like a tightrope.
Here's the thing. The Clippers are not without leverage here. Now, typically, when you've got a star player going into the last year of his contract, the team is in kind of trouble, and they're kind of, going with a little bit of hat in hand. I don't think Kawhi Leonard and Paul George want to leave Los Angeles. I think they want to be there. And I also think that the Clippers are in position to probably pay them more money than anybody else is going to be able to in the market. And the Clippers have some things to negotiate, not just the actual max and years of the contract, but under the new CBA, you can renegotiate option years. So both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard have player options. Typically, you'd have to pick up those options and extend there. But the new rules say you can decline that option and renegotiate that year. So if they do want to extend, the Clippers can sort of try to, manipulate what they've got left on the deal. So it's complex. So yes, I think you absolutely don't want to lose these guys if they're healthy. But I don't think the Clippers feel the same pressure that another team in the situation might feel.
I'm with Zach. I would not be at all surprised if, particularly after someone gets off to a certain start or another start, if we start to hear, oh, maybe there's some more momentum towards seeing if James Harden could fit with this Clippers roster.